Welcome to A Cup of Joe with Joe. Hey Joe, here's your cup of Joe. No coffee for Joe, right? We're going to go ahead and use some papaya. So the idea of A Cup of Joe with Joe, so I got my cup of Joe. It's hazelnut. Tasty, my little owl cup. And we're just going to basically go over a subject. And we're just going to roll with it. Whatever happens, happens while sitting here with Joe. So Joe is a South American tortoise called a redfoot tortoise. And as you can see, he's a pretty big boy. So we figured he'd be a great co-host for doing these kinds of episodes. So what do you say? You want to get started with A Cup of Joe with Joe? Let's do it. All right, first. Okay, caffeinated. Hopefully the brain's turned on. So today we're going to talk about the subject of why we should not just pick up a turtle or tortoise and put them someplace else, right? Why not to relocate? We don't want to just throw them somewhere else, right? And we're going to tell you why. These are some things to consider. So there's different scenarios that may come up. Maybe there's a tortoise digging underneath a fence. Maybe you see one that's getting ready to cross a highway or a road. Maybe you have a turtle that's trying to lay eggs in your yard. Who knows what it is? But maybe you feel like where they're at isn't so good. So these are things that we need to consider, okay? I've got here some cue cards. First thing that we always like to consider is homing instincts, okay? So turtles and tortoises do have homing instincts. Actually, turtles like the box turtle and gopher tortoises and other tortoise species do have strong homing instincts, and they're known for that, okay? And basically, homing instincts means that they have kind of like this GPS in their head, and it helps them to find their way back home no matter where they end up, right? Right, Joe? So you would know exactly where to come back for home. You're looking for more snacks, right? So homing instincts is one factor. And another factor that we also need to think about is legalities. Don't knock over my stuff. Joe, he's looking at himself. He's like, hey. All right, come on back, Joe. We can't see you. Come enjoy a kiss. Okay. All right. So another thing we need to think about is legalities. A lot of species you are not legally allowed, like the gopher tortoise, to just pick them up or relocate them or put them someplace else. So if you got one digging in your yard and you're like, hey, I just want to get this guy out of here, you can't do that. It's just not, you're not legally allowed. So, no, you can't have my Joe. No. Okay. Big. So, another thing that we need to think about is disease. Okay, so disease is another big factor. And there's something called mycoplasma that gopher tortoises have been known to transmit to each other. So if you take one and you put them into another population, you could potentially spread that disease. Also, the binovirus is a new one with the aquatic species, and so that's why we also don't want to move the aquatic species. So we don't want to infect further populations. What are you doing? Oh my goodness. Okay. Stress factors, okay? Stress factors is another one. It lowers their immune system. It's a very stressful situation to be picked up and put somewhere else. And then we're also going to go through a whole scenario so we can get more into those stress factors, which usually include danger. Okay, so it's dangerous. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how and why that happens. Okay, so we don't want your butt in the video, Joe. Can we get a face shot? Oh my goodness. Joe has left the building. All right, one more time. Come on back over here, Joe. You're distracting. You're very distracting. Okay, so let's go ahead and put something into a scenario. You're driving down the road and you see a gopher tortoise trying to cross the street, right? Okay, so you're like, oh my gosh, there's cars and everything else here. This is probably not a safe situation. I know this habitat that's about 4 miles from here. I'm just going to pick him up, bring him to that habitat because he'll be safer, right? It'd be better for him. I think he would enjoy his life there. Okay, so here we are. We are a gopher tortoise. We have just already been stressed by the fact that we've been plucked up, right? We're already trying to cross the street. That was scary enough as it was. Right, Joe? Yep, see? Crossing the street. And so that was bad enough as it was. And then we get picked up. Now we're in this car, right? And then all of a sudden we're in a whole new environment. And yeah, maybe it's beautiful. Maybe it's gorgeous. But is it home? No, it's not home. So one of the things that we might run into as a gopher tortoise once we've been put in that new habitat is, how about the elements? Is it hot? Do I have shade? Or is it cold, and do I have shelter? I don't, because I've just been taken from where my burrow was, right? So my burrow's not there, which I use for safety from the heat and the elements, right? And also from predators. All right, so let's say I'm still going. All right, I'm getting my GPS on, my homing instincts are kicking in, so now I'm gonna travel those 3 miles. So in a car for you, 3 miles, well, maybe, depending on traffic, 5-10 minutes. Joe! 5-10 minutes, come on, you silly. 5 or 10 minutes away. Here, you sure you don't want some Joe? No? Okay. 5 or 10 minutes away for you. That doesn't seem like much. But now you try to walk back in that distance. So, you're walking back. You're trying to figure out where you are. Alright. Now, the first thing you come across is a neighborhood. And then there's a fence. Oh my goodness. Now there's a fence. What are we going to do? Right? What are we going to do? We can't go through the fence. We can try digging under it. Okay, so say we dig under the fence. Or we go around the fence. We dig under the fence. We might end up in where there's a dog. Now we have a domestic dog or domestic animal issue. So now that dog, what if he bites me or chews on you, right? Oh my goodness, that's terrible. And then once you're inside the fence, how do you get out the other side of the fence? Now we're stuck in there, right? So unless someone comes and helps you out or leaves the gate open, you're stuck in there. Again, you could get overheated. Who knows? All right, so let's say that you decided that you went in and you did find your way back out. Now you haven't been chewed on by a dog. Well, you still have to figure out your way back. And there's other wild animals. So we could come across coyotes or foxes or any other predator that might come out and end up trying to chew on you or eat you, right? So that's scary because we don't have our burrow. So it's not like you can go run and jump into your burrow. So now we're going to keep walking. Say we survived that. We didn't get eaten by anything, right? So we're still going. Okay, now the next obstacle is that we've run into a waterway. Gopher tortoises aren't big swimmers, right? They're like, oh man, now I got this waterway. How am I supposed to go around this? You know, this is going to take me forever. So they go around, they try to find their way, which may put them into the next step. What's the next one? What could be something else they run into, right? We're already dealing with the heat of the day. How about hunger? Now they also have to find food. So they have to find the appropriate foods on this voyage back home. What if those are not available? You know, so that could be a problem as well, is feeding yourself. Joe, there's a head on top of Joe. Oh my goodness. All right, so the other thing that we may have issues with is, what if we're crossing through other habitats of other tortoises? Now we have territorial disputes. That could also be a problem. We can't live over here. This guy's like, hey, this is my territory. That's it. You're not allowed over here. So now you have to move on. Oh man. Okay, so with all those factors coming into play, we also have a big one, roadways. How many roads are you going to have to cross, right, Joe, to get back to where you needed to go? You're not in a car, right? You got to walk across all of these pathways, and of course you want to take the shortest path, which will usually lead you into things you don't want to run into, okay? So then we could also be hit by a car. So if you consider all of these obstacles, all of these stressors, before taking an animal and moving them somewhere else, that's a big issue. And a lot of these animals don't make it. There's been some studies that say 70% of relocated animals don't survive. 70% don't survive. They don't make it. And they're talking snakes, turtles, mammals, birds. A lot of them don't survive. They don't make it. And those stressors are extremely, extremely harsh on their systems, right? So we want to make sure we don't do that. Now, on that whole voyage of that tortoise, who hopefully made it back home miles away eventually, may have also encountered diseases. And if he did, now he's bringing them back to his home population. So that's another thing that we need to consider. So if we look at now, maybe say our aquatic, right? You can say, okay, well that's tortoises, right? Now let's look at the aquatic. So the aquatic species, they deal with a lot of similar things. You're like, oh, look at this beautiful lake, okay? So everyone's dealing with COVID-19 right now and the coronavirus. And how easily are we getting this spread, right? It takes a little sneeze or something and you cross-contaminated. Now somebody else is sick. So you walk into a whole store full of healthy people, and now you've spread those germs. So let's consider that when we are trying to pick up, say, an aquatic turtle. So let's say, okay, we got this nice little pond. It's not real big. It's in a subdivision, but there's a road there, and you're like, I think I'm going to go ahead and move this turtle to this beautiful refuge or waterway that's about a mile away. So now, if that turtle has a virus and is contagious, then you have just now introduced that disease to this whole waterway. That waterway connects to other natural areas that are miles and miles long. So now we have got this virus that's spreading from turtle to turtle to turtle to turtle halfway across the state. Okay, that's a problem. That's a real big issue. So disease is one thing that you really need to consider before moving an animal, and not just reptiles, but mammals as well, from rabies to distemper, even parasite loads. Hi, Ralph. Hello. Okay, hi. Don't sit on my cup of joe. Oh, no. This is... Oh. So this is Ralph. He's one of our rescuers. Hi. And he likes to get lots of attention. Yes, you do. Is Joe getting more attention than you? Yeah, he is. Okay. So just to sum this up in this crazy impromptu video, let's make sure we consider all of these factors before moving an animal. The best thing you can do is try to work with the situation you have, if it's a situation within your own yard or property. If it's in your own yard or property, or if you see an animal that it's a wild situation trying to cross the road, help them in the direction they were going, okay? So you see a big animal like Joe trying to go, just help them in the direction they were going. And if you ever are in a situation, Ralph, get out of there, silly, come here. If you're ever in a situation where, say, it is a turtle or tortoise that is in a parking lot or in a very, very odd place, one, use GPS and see if there is a natural habitat that would be good for that animal, because maybe they've just wandered from there for one reason or another. Female laying eggs, there could be lots of different situations that makes them, changing territories and such. But if not, you can contact one of your local rescues. You can also contact us. Joe, oh my God. Okay. So anyway, you can also contact even Swamp Girl Adventures, Reptile Rehabilitation, that's us, and you're welcome to ask questions or if you have any concerns. The biggest thing is if you do spot an animal, even especially if they're injured, please make sure you get their location, because we do want to make sure they go close to their home once they've been fully rehabilitated, so that they don't have those additional stress factors. I hope some of this made sense. I feel like this has just been a whole, I have no idea. Okay, so there's the first episode of A Cup of Joe with Joe. Good boy. You can stop it now.